5 ordinary people needed a miracle.
Help us, somebody.
Then one night, Fay Riley left the window open.
Welcome to America. This is history. Machines that reproduce themselves.
They're spaceships.
From a very small planet.
Steven Spielberg presents a Matthew Robbins film, Batteries Not Included. Rated PG. Starts Friday at theaters everywhere.
This feels like we should be doing Cocoon. Honestly, like this is what it should.
We originally had Cocoon, but because we couldn't find it, we swapped it out.
This movie inspired me to after I watched this, I watched Close Encounters because I realized I've seen about 60% of Close Encounters, but I definitely have never seen the whole thing. So
well, that's much better than this movie.
So I watched it start to finish. I'm like, oh, this is a masterpiece. Spielberg and Aliens, man. He's just like, he loves that story.
Close Encounters, though, it
has its faults.
Yeah, I just have a hard time. That's another movie I have a hard time focusing all the way through. Like
that's because you just don't like the lead actor.
That's part of it. Yes.
He's very good. He's very good.
He's great in Close Encounters.
He's great in Jaws. And Stand By Me.
Stand By Me. I mean, he's got kind of a part in that.
And I think
Mr. Holland's opus.
I don't think you're supposed to like him in What About Bob? And I think
he's great.
What about Moon Over Parador?
I haven't seen it.
Don't know that one.
Should change that.
Should I?
Sure.
Seems like it's kind of ruined you for Richard Dreyfuss. So.
Oh yeah.
Is there a movie where he gets horrifically murdered that you could watch that scene? And
there's got to be. There's got to be.
Is he a murder victim in something?
I don't know. He's not. I don't know if he did those kinds of movies. They were beneath him.
Yeah.
Rely on story, not gore, David. That's the Dreyfuss way.
Well, he got so close to be eaten by a shark. I'm
close,
sure
but
you're rooting for the shark every time.
Yeah. Well, with all that, welcome to a brand new episode of Reconcinimation. I'm John Diner.
I'm David Munchak.
I'm Brett Hutchins.
And this is the podcast that takes a look back at some of our favorite films from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and we're checking out how they hold up today. And this week we're going family. We're going is this our first family film?
Family style?
I don't know if it's our first family film. What constitutes family film on here? I think a movie, Adventures in Babysitting was a family film.
Yeah, I guess that could be. Yeah, we could consider that a family film.
It's kind of that was little there. Yeah.
You and your significant other and if you have them, your kids can gather around and
Friday the 13th.
Part 4. That's definitely a family film.
Yep. Mm-hmm. all in the family.
Yeah. So, but either way, we've not done it very often. So, we went animation our last episode with Heavy Metal, and now we're going family.
Not family. Yeah. Not family. Heavy Metal.
We swung the opposite
as
direction.
Discussed. In that episode, not family friendly, not for the kids.
And if you missed it, check it out in the archives at reconcinimation.com.
Because we're kind of just saying family as like a G or PG kind of film, right? I mean,
yes. Yeah.
Like Vacation and Christmas Vacation, those can be enjoyed by the family. They're not like...
I wouldn't categorize them as family films, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like... It should be sold, if it were the old days in a video store, it would have a clamshell.
Oh, like Mac and Me.
that's a
Mac and Me have a clamshell?
Yes, I have one still somewhere.
Oh my gosh.
It's like my wife's favorite movie, Mac and Me.
Yeah.
I was like, have you seen E.T.? Because it's superior.
There's a little movie.
He's like, no, Mac and Me. Mac and Me's the one. I'm like, cool.
All right. Each his own.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and you know what? So just to be clear, we're talking about the theatrical cut of Batteries Not Included, not the director's cut, which is one of the goriest movies that's ever been in the history of film.
Yeah, that's right.
I do want to see that cut. I want to see that cut.
It's hard to find.
Yeah.
Most of the footage was lost in a warehouse fire.
Yeah, that's how Spielberg came in and just, chopped all that out and made it a family movie.
Yeah.
But the funny trivia, though, the original title of Child's Play, which came out in 1988, was Batteries Not Included.
Oh, indeed.
So this movie, beat it to the punch, and Child's Play had to think of a new name.
Yeah, the director of Child's Play was like, I can't compete with Spielberg. We're changing the name. I can't do this.
So where did this movie come from in our, how did we get to Batteries Not Included after all the movies we've covered? How did we come to this one?
Funny you should ask, because I feel like we were just talking about this before we started, and I think it's because we wanted to do Cocoon, and Cocoon is really hard to find on home video, like VHS, DVD, Blu-ray. It's not streaming anywhere. And I was feeling lost without a little bit of Jessica Tandy in my life. And so we pivoted to Batteries Not Included, which I think was an interesting choice.
Yeah. It's the right pivot. It makes sense. If you're craving a little Cronin, Hume Cronin and Jessica Tandy combo, this is another one.
Who doesn't love Hugh Cronin and Jessica Tandy? I mean, they're married for 50 years or more in real life. Like, there's no denying that their chemistry is real, but I don't think this movie's as good as Cocoon.
Yeah. This was an interesting trip down memory lane watching this one. In fact, let's talk about it. When was the first time you saw Batteries Not Included? Brent, we'll start with you. Was it, did you see it in the theaters or home video?
I saw it in the theaters with my family at the Westwood Mall when I was just a little guy. In 87, would have been, 9 years old. Yeah.
Okay, so theater for you. David, what about you?
I had never seen it. And
first time watch.
First time on this one. So it was just for this podcast. It's sort of, I had always seen it when I think it was probably a cheap movie to show on the Saturday afternoons and Sunday afternoons on local affiliates and stuff. But I'll be honest, the one thing that always got me is they show the little robot coming out of the pea soup, and the imagery of that just put me off a little. Like, despite everything else that's in the trailer or the commercials for it and all that, I'm like, yeah, but he's like this little robot's in the soup. And
you never played with your little R2D2 characters from Star Wars in your pea soup? That wasn't a thing.
Pea soup's disgusting.
Yeah.
I don't like pea soup, so that also contributed.
If pea soup is in your movie, outside of The Exorcist, I'm not watching it. Yeah, that's just a ground rule I have.
It just, that always stuck with me, because also in the commercials you'd see like the composite of like the animated robot flying, blue screen over the footage, but then you see a real robot in the soup. And like that juxtaposition wasn't good. Like as a young kid, I'm like, I can't
buy into this.
There was just something about the whole thing of like, I don't know. So, it just never got to be, and maybe because there's when I was a kid, I probably would watch it if a kid was in it, right? Like if I was 7 years old and there was but there's no kids. It's it's all a bunch of old timers I had never heard of, a couple old timers. It looks nice. It looks fine, but I was just like, it wasn't for me. So
I think as a kid, I really enjoyed it. It's not one that I like. Again, I didn't really go back to it much because I just think probably for me, much better options. But I do remember liking it in the theater, like being surprised by it. Like I think I went in young me, not knowing much about it, feeling pretty underwhelmed about the fact that we were going to go see this one because it was old folks and there were no like young kids. There was not like, the other Spielberg influenced films of those days, which are like heavily influenced by like children's adventures and wonder and things like that. And there wasn't a lot of that in the trailers or anything. And then after leaving though, I felt like, oh, you know what? That was fun. Like I liked it. Again, I was 9, but I liked it. And it was better than I had anticipated.
Everyone you're rooting for, you could root for them. It's a very optimistic story and it's fun. I could see if you're a kid and watching it straight through, I don't see why you wouldn't like it, like in general.
Yeah, I think it's really easily digestible for younger audience members.
Yeah. And it has a slight sense of magic, and the design is the designs were cool, and so there's like stuff to like grab onto that kind of work at that time. Again, pea soup totally did the opposite, but
that's what I was gonna say. But it's got pea soup.
It's got the pea soup in it.
That's true. It throws the whole game off.
When I'm meeting with filmmakers now and I'm reading scripts, one of the first questions I have is there pea soup in here? And if there is, that's a pass. I will read no further.
You guys have nothing but hate for pea. See, I like pea soup. My mother made an excellent pea soup. I love it. You guys are hating.
I don't like peas. I don't like pea soup.
Which I don't really like flavors, peas, right? Which is funny, but I do like pea soup.
There you go.
Go figure.
So, yeah.
Back to this. Interesting to have a children's movie without children.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of strange. I saw this movie. I was probably 8, and I was in like an after-school daycare kind of thing in elementary school. My parents worked till 6 or 6:30, so I'd have to stay certain days, in the after-school group, and we just we'd do whatever. We'd play and watch movies, and this was one of the movies, kind of like Meatballs 2 for my camp life. Batteries Not Included was like the movie they had on hand all the time. So we watched this multiple times. And I don't know. I never loved it. Like I never connected with it. I always struggled with, and I think that might be it, that there was just like, there was no kids. There was nobody really for me as a kid to like really hang on to and identify with. So it just always held, worked against the movie for me.
Yeah. I mean, it's strange. Like you think of some of the other movies that Spielberg just produced in that time, right? Like in the 80s. And like, not all of them had kids, or not all of them were necessarily like children's movies or family movies, but like things like Poltergeist, right? Which is very much, that's a horror movie, not a kid's movie, I wouldn't think. But like as a kid, I liked that a ton better just because like Heather O'Rourke was in it. Like just having a child representative in one of his movies, I think helped resonate a lot more.
Yeah. You felt seen. I
felt heard, I felt connected to.
Well, but that's a good point though. And I think we should, part of what watching it this time really jumped out at me was the Spielberg effect and his name being attached to all these movies and skipping over the movies he directed. So let's just look. We're not going to look at this second, but stay tuned. We're going to go through all the movies he produced in the 80s and what worked, what didn't work, and where does this one kind of fall into the mix. But before we do that, David, can you give a quick recap? What is Batteries Not Included all about?
Oh, a found family of sordid characters living in an old New York building are facing a forced eviction from land developers, and while they all resist to leave, none of them want to leave, and they are befriended by out of this world mechanical little beings, and they help revitalize their life and help fend off the developers for a time. and we're along for the ride to see, can they find happiness in their old place?
Time
We
will
call
tell.
we call those little helping beings fix-its.
Fix-its?
Fix-its.
Is that their
Fix-its.
proper referenced name?
Yes.
Or,
Yeah.
like, if you're talking about the movie, those are the Fix-its.
That
Those
is
are the
correct.
fix-its.
That's what Frank calls them, that, right?
What does he
Like-
call it? Did I miss that?
I thought he called them that.
He probably
I don't-
did.
I don't know if I caught him calling it or not, but during the course of researching for this, for the show, basically any article that I read kept referring to them as the fix-its. So
I think there was a one-off little.
there may have been.
I think he said, like, I think pretty, like, when it might be during the birth scene, you know, the alien robots that are giving birth.
Yeah.
Batteries not included.
I think he says it
totally,
there.
It's real.
Yeah.
That could happen.
Yeah.
Gushing mechanical oil
Where's-
everywhere.
where's-
The
Where's your
science
sense
is
of-
there.
Just a
Where's your
violent,
sense of
gory
wonder
birth.
and spectacle, John? Jeez, man.
Well, and that's part of my issue with it. I don't have it for this movie. Like E.T. and Close Encounters and all of those, even Gremlins, like, it's there. It's not here for me. For Batteries Not Included.
I'll agree that it's a little wonder light. Like, for whatever reason, like, it just doesn't, you're right, achieve that same sense as like you said, Gremlins or E.T. It just seems a little bit more reserved in a way. Like, I love the Fix-Its. I think they're adorable. I understand from a consumer product standpoint. I get why they went for it, but you're right. Like, it doesn't quite hit on all cylinders. And to me, watching it felt very almost made for TV in a way, like a lot of it.
Well, and in fact, it almost was. Originally, it was developed and written as a segment in Amazing Stories.
Absolutely.
Which totally fits. I could watch this for an
totally
hour.
makes sense, right? Yeah. It feels like it absolutely came from like an Amazing Stories.
Now, for those that don't remember, Brent, were you an Amazing Stories fan? Can you recap what that show was all about?
I was a fan, but it was an anthology series that always had some sense of wonder and spectacle each episode, where the heroine would overcome some adversity that usually took some sort of miraculous happening to occur for that outcome. And overall, I don't know that I've seen every single episode, but there are a few that stand out to me that I really like. I think the one that is probably most recognizable to most people is the bomber episode where the belly gunner is trapped under the bee.
Casey Shimazko from Young Guns and 3 O'Clock High.
That's the same kid. Yeah. How'd you know? And so he's caught under the plane in his little belly gun turret, and the airplane's landing gears are not coming out. And so in some last ditch effort, I think it's established somewhere in there that he's also like an artist, or someone on the plane is an artist, and he draws a landing gear on the airplane, and right as they're about to crash, the landing gear comes out, and it's like this cartoon. I think it's like this cartoon.
It's like rotoscope, I think.
Yeah. And it's amazing. Like, it's actually,
it's an amazing story.
It is an amazing story.
But also it's got, Kevin
alert.
Costner, Kiefer Sutherland are all in that segment. It's
well,
a great
and
cast.
all of the episodes have, there's a lot of star power kind of sprinkled throughout the series. I think it ran for 2 seasons. And then even more recently, I think maybe in 2019, 2020, Apple did like a reboot and had a season that was also had some good, with anthologies, like you find, some of the stories are better than others.
It was called Not As Amazing Stories.
Did
No, there's pretty
Less
good.
amazing
was
stories.
Spielberg involved? Did he?
I'm sure his name's on it.
I'm sure. Yeah,
I'm sure
I'm
his
sure he
name's
has.
on it.
I don't
But-
know that. I don't know how to what level he was.
The
involved.
original one though was so Spielberg. Like it
Very,
had
very
the
much so.
Spielberg look visually, the tone. It felt like a
Music.
Spielberg project. The John Williams and the music. That opening theme song is totally memorable, and the whole opening credit sequence was really cool. One of my favorites as a kid.
Hmm.
But yeah, and I think like a lot of the Spielberg crew, worked on those as they were available. But yeah, it was a big show in like right in the mid '80s, and I think that one with that you were just describing, Brent, was maybe the first episode or second episode. It was early on.
I'm definitely first season, and I'm pretty sure it was first couple.
Yeah. So Batteries Not Included was originally designed to be a segment on that show, but Spielberg, he loved it and saw something in the story and felt like it could be its own movie and stand on its own 2 feet, and separated it and developed it as a feature.
Yeah.
And
it's, I think we've already said it, but there's probably enough there that he saw to expand on it being more than an amazing story, but I don't know if it's enough to fill out an entire movie.
I think it needs like 6 more months script development, just like because the characters are all a little disjointed for so long, and like they just sort of clash into each other, and you don't really feel like a closeness to them until toward the end, like in terms of their closeness to each other and all that. So, and then there's the tragic, like this tragicness to Jessica Tandy's character being, not fully
suffering from dementia.
Yeah.
Well, it's not really dementia though. It's selective memory.
Yeah.
She's in post, PTSD really. She's post-traumatic after the death of their child or their son, not child, but he's an adult.
That's not really revealed until the very
correct.
end,
you don't know that till
so
way deep in the movie.
Yeah, so that kind of reveals itself.
Yeah.
And then she comes to a point of acceptance, and so we assume she's a lot better, after. So I feel like it's just almost like if that group all sort of had relationships versus like they all kind of meet each other at the start of the movie, as it's going on.
Yeah, I agree with that, David.
Or at least a few of them. So it's almost like if they're not just connected enough. I get it. The story works, but to have that sense of wonder, I think you need like tighter relationships. Probably just so we can trust.
a stronger bond between kind of all the tenants, right? Because like you said, there are a couple that seem to have some relationships, but others are just very like they've never even seen before, and they've been living in this apartment building that's about to get torn down, and they're all fighting against that cause. But like, oh hey, you're a neighbor. And this guy, I live on the 3rd floor. It's like, okay, that's a little suspect.
Yeah, it's weird. Like Frank and Faye, who is Hume Cronyn and Jessica Tandy, are a couple that have been there. We see right in the opening montage that they've been there since for 40 years, since the 40s or something, that they've been in this building and through all the good times, and when that whole neighborhood was really jumping, and and now
happy.
we've seen it deteriorate, and to the point where their building is the only one left, and as developers are trying to get rid of the tenants and take over the building to build whatever they're going to end up building. So
it was interesting in watching this movie. It felt like a movie that was much older to me than it was. Like, I don't know if I can exactly put my finger on it, but just the color quality and things of that nature felt more like almost like those movies you see that have had color added to black and white, like just kind of like that treatment. And it really like gave the film to me like a sense of it being like maybe more from like the 50s, 60s than it did, the 80s, right?
Yeah.
It's a very brown movie, right?
Right. You're not wrong.
The
Very
colors
earth
are
tone.
yeah, they're like muted like that, and everything is deteriorating and broken down. Like the whole beginning of the movie, everything around them is broken. The
Yeah.
streets are all rubble, as everything
Wow.
is torn down, right? Like inside, like right away, Carlos comes over and he's hired to kind of help get the tenants out, and he destroys the Frank's restaurant, is the cafe at the on the bottom of the building, and everyone's apartments are falling apart and decaying, and it's like a dirty, grungy movie.
Yeah. And everything being broken is the genius of the Fix-Its, right?
Correct.
So-
Yeah, and that's
so
all
there-
intentional.
That's
but
where
it's
you get, I was going to say, that's where you get the tie-in.
yeah, yeah. But it's also as a viewer, I feel like it's a little off-putting. It's a little, I don't know, hard to it's just hard to get into, right off the bat. And the other thing I was going to say is, individually, I like a lot of these actors, but here the performances feel like it feels like a play to me. Like it feels like this could be done in the theater,
Mhm.
and their style of acting is a little bit over dramatic and over dramatized, like in theater where you do it bigger, right? So the entire audience can see.
Mhm.
Whereas in a movie, it's just different styles. A movie, you don't need to be as big because the camera is going to make it bigger. So,
I wonder if they ever made this a play. Like
I don't know, but it feels like it to me.
It could easily be a play. Like, like it's all pretty self-contained.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot of like over the top special effects.
Yeah,
of
there's
any
only a
sort.
few sets really that have to be in it, and you can work
Mhm.
around it.
Probably be a pretty good play, actually.
I think this would be this could be the new Broadway show.
Let's do it. Batteries not included.
They do
Coming
the
to
music-
Broadway.
David's
2025.
David's got his pencil out, and I see him jotting down some notes.
Here we go.
Okay.
But like, this Spielberg making this or producing this movie or being a producer on it, like, this isn't the first time we've had Spielberg attached to a movie that we've covered, that like, regardless of like not him directing, but like what we did, what do we do that he produced?
Well, let's go through it. Used cars.
Used cars, right
in the beginning of the 80s,
Mm-hmm.
which we covered. You can hear that in the archives at www.reconcinimation.com if you missed that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're kind of all over the place. There's hits and there's misses. There's a lot more hits than misses, but there is some there.
Did we cover
once
Gremlins yet? We did Gremlins, right?
Well,
yeah,
we
you
did
guys
Gremlins,
did. Yeah, you did Gremlins.
Money
we've done-
Pit.
We've
did
done
that.
Money Pit. Yeah. So we've
Joe
done a
versus the volcano, I think, is one of them.
Yep. Joe versus the
Yeah.
volcano. He did. Yeah. So
Yeah,
there's a
but-
handful that we've covered for sure.
Yeah, and a lot more.
And a
we
lot
will
that
in the
we
future.
haven't.
Yeah. But
We
there's
will be
something
back.
like the Spielberg stamp of his putting his mark on a movie really gave it a huge boost.
Sure.
In the
Absolutely.
eyes. I mean, Steven Spielberg in the 80s was the number one director.
Well, yeah. I mean, and I'm absolute number one director and produced. I mean, this one not necessarily, but produced some of the, most important movies from my childhood, at least.
Yeah, I mean, look
Back
at
to the Future, Goonies,
right.
Poltergeist.
Poltergeist, Gremlins, The Goonies, Back to the Future. I guess if we're just talking 80s, it'd be 1 and 2.
Sure.
Young Sherlock Holmes. Don't sleep
Yep.
on that one.
Nope.
Money Pit, An American Tail, Harry and the Hendersons, Inner Space, definitely covering that.
Yeah.
Who Framed Roger
Rabbit?
The Land Before Time, at least the first one, and yeah, I mean that's a huge list. That's all separate from the movies he
Directing.
directed. So it's on top of the, 3 Indiana Jones movies, and on top of The Color Purple, and so many big films.
Mm-hmm.
But those, putting his name on those just gives it even. Obviously, many of those are great stories, great projects on their own, but putting his name on it boosts it up to just an entirely different scale. And some of those, really standing the test of time, like Back to the Future.
Yeah.
But he's also got some other ones that, even if they were financial hits at the time, have not had the legs that those other ones do. Used Cars, we talked about. Continental Divide, which is a John Belushi movie from, I want to say it's 1982.
Yeah.
81, 82. And it was really made during kind of, unfortunately, a brief time when John Belushi was clean, and really trying to get his dramatic acting career going. 3 O'Clock High, we mentioned, Spielberg produced. Now that one has always been kind of a cult favorite.
Yeah, I love that movie, but yeah, it also feels very non-Spielberg thumbprint to me. Like that one on the list seems out of place, but I'm part of that cult that enjoys that movie.
Yeah, it does, and all of those movies, they just, maybe he put his name on it and was not really involved. The ones we listed previously, like, he got involved in all those. Like, he was involved in the casting and the, a lot of the creative, the script development. Some of those other ones, you can tell he wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
He wouldn't have made some of those decisions. So, and this
but
is one of those.
But this
like,
one,
right
he is involved, though. I mean, I know he's keeping a close eye on cost and things like that, because it was important for it to come in on budget. He hand selected the director,
who's Matthew Robbins,
right?
Who
they'd worked together before.
Yeah. What did they work together on?
The director had written the screenplay for Sugarland Express. He did some stuff with Amazing Stories. So they had a relationship.
Yeah.
When he was selected for this.
So they plucked him right from Amazing Stories here.
Yeah, I mean, and as well as, I mean, he also had done some kind of rewrites on Close Encounters. So yeah, there was some history.
Yeah. But then Matthew Robbins ended up directing a cool movie. At least I remember it as a cool movie. Haven't seen it since the late 80s. The Legend of Billie Jean.
Yeah.
I that's one that comes up a lot.
The movie with 2 Slaters.
2 Slaters, not
it
one,
is.
but 2.
Yeah. What is it? Heather and Christian? Is it Heather?
Helen Slater and
Helen
Christian Slater.
Yeah.
Which
not
are they?
Not related. They're
not related, right?
No. Although many people thought that they were, based on that movie, but no, they're not. But Helen Slater from Supergirl fame.
Yeah.
Sure.
She's great.
Yeah. So.
And then he also directed Dragon Slayer and Corvette Summer. Corvette Summer, the Annie Potts, Mark Hamill classic.
Wow.
I'll have to go watch that one.
It's the movie Mark Hamill did that wasn't Star Wars.
A high school grad and a hooker in training try to track down his stolen Corvette.
Isn't that risky
yes,
business?
Sir. Is that risky?
Isn't that risky business? Isn't that risky business?
I don't know.
It's got a great Corvette Summer's got a great poster, but actually, Corvette Summer was the movie that he was, I believe Hamill was in production on or was promoting when he got in his really bad car accident that changed his look between Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back. So Matthew Robbins is the director of those films and Amazing Stories, and comes in to take
hold
the
on,
helm.
sorry, I just have to interrupt real quick because you forgot that he also directed Bingo.
Shame on me.
Which, if you haven't seen Bingo from 1991 about the dog with cool sunglasses, then you obviously missed the 90s.
Yeah.
Well, Matthew Robbins has a credit of screen story for the Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio.
That is true. Though from this very Oscar season that we're currently in.
Yeah. So it looks like, I mean, I think it looks like him and Guillermo did probably the earliest drafts of it.
Yeah.
And then, so
Guillermo saw Batteries Not Included and said, I need that guy.
I need that.
get
guy.
me Robbins.
Get me with that voice exactly.
Yeah.
Get me Robbins.
Oh, that's cool.
But he's not the only person that had a creative hand in here. This is also written by Brad Bird.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
saw
his
his name on the
first.
screen.
It's his first written by credit.
Yeah. What else has Brad Bird done? Where would we know his name from?
Oh, geez.
The Incredibles.
The Incredibles. Exactly.
No,
yeah.
Iron Giant. Come on.
Yeah.
Let's
Oh,
get
yeah.
I mean, some of the really great animated films of our generation. Iron Giant's amazing.
Ratatouille, Iron Giant, and yes, obviously The Incredibles.
You know, a lot of people who were involved in the early days of Pixar, you know, really were hitting home runs every time. The Incredibles is an amazing movie. The second one, not as amazing, but still a good time. So
yeah.
Well, Mission Impossible: Ghost Protocol.
I was going to say,
a spiritual successor.
Yeah,
it's is a spiritual sequel to The Incredibles, as far as I'm concerned.
Wait, now is that Ghost Protocol? Is that 4 or 5? I mix. I have crazy mix-em-ups with those.
I think that's 4.
No idea.
That's 4.
Yeah.
Does anybody else feel like Up might also be somewhat of a spiritual sequel to Batteries Not Included? I'm just going to go back because we're talking Pixar a little bit.
Oh yeah, you could. Oh yeah, let's throw it out there. Up is a unofficial sequel to Batteries Not Included.
It's got it. I mean, Hume Cronin, Jessica Tandy, they're definitely the leads of Up at the beginning, and the house is definitely in the middle of a bunch of huge skyscraper buildings, just like we leave the apartment complex at the end of Batteries Not Included. I might be.
You're not wrong.
I kind of love that theory. So
Brad Bird has a strong Pixar connection. Obviously, he didn't direct Up, but he could have very easily given notes and lent some story ideas.
That's a good point.
I think you're onto something. Let's make it official. It's real.
I think it's official. Put the stamp on it.
Yep. We'll spread it. We'll tell our friends on social media and it'll become a real thing.
I'm probably going to watch 3 O'Clock High after this recording, by the way, because I haven't seen that.
You haven't ever?
Oh, no, I haven't seen it since the 1990.
I think I only saw it in pieces then, so really? I feel like I couldn't say I've actually seen it.
Buddy Lavelle, man.
Yeah. I haven't seen it recently, but holy shit, that movie! I used to love that movie.
Rules.
We need Casey Siemaszko. He needs to be more present. So let's find him. Let's get him some movies. Hollywood.
Yeah, don't sleep on Casey Siemaszko.
Yeah,
we need a little more.
And Richard Tyson. Right,
Richard Tyson was Buddy Lavelle, indeed.
Who would go on to be the villain in Kindergarten Cop,
indeed,
and in a lot of Farrelly Brothers movies, randomly.
So, just FYI, I just wanted to interrupt and say I'm gonna probably do that.
Keeping on brand, it's all good.
So, all right, let's go back to Batteries Not Included, though. Are you actually connected to these characters? Are you following the plot? How much do you actually care what happens to them?
I'm invested. I want to see them, be okay.
Yeah. I don't not want them to, I want their characters to be okay, but I also didn't really care that much. And I don't know if it was I felt like when I watch it now, I kept getting taken out of the movie, and it was the style of acting though. Like I love Hume Cronin, and I felt like his performance was very different in Cocoon than it is here. It's a little more over the top, and that kind of thing, just really takes me out. And Carlos, the Carlos character, was also stereotypical, and the gang that's hired to try to get everybody out of the apartment. It's just, I don't know, I struggled with it, so I had a hard time getting invested.
I could see that. I don't know, I didn't find it difficult to be cheering for the underdog. Like I definitely felt like maybe not so much the Hume Cronin or Jessica Tandy characters as much as I love them from Cocoon, but like I really liked Frank McRae, and
Did you?
yeah, the Harry Noble character.
He needed
like,
more to do.
He definitely
But,
needed
yeah.
more to do, but he had that like childlike innocence, and I feel like that may have been the attempt to have kind of in lieu of having an actual kid actor in the movie was have kind of a childlike character in there. And I don't know, I was definitely rooting for him, especially like when he was picked on at the beginning and he's like hiding behind the curtain, very like adolescent thinking of like being able to hide behind a curtain, you know, and protecting your tile pieces. And, you know, I did like him, and I liked his come up, or like his victory in the end. Like I was in for that.
I see. I felt like that was also kind of maybe this is the modern me talking, right? Like,
Sure.
looking back on it feels very enabling to people with a mental issue. It comes across that way now. That like
I can, and I think, okay, that might be a fair interpretation now, but you're talking about me who's coming at it from the eyes of a 9-year-old, where
Sure.
this, you know, like that isn't
Yeah.
really the case. And
Yeah.
I'm bringing that with me as I'm watching it now. Right. So
Right.
like, I'm more coming at it from a person's standpoint of who saw it as a child and remembers certain aspects of it from that childhood. And I'm not really looking at it so much from like the lens of 2023 and how we have, you know, how, you know, we're much more aware of these things than we
Yeah.
were.
well, David is looking at it through the 2023 lens.
Well, I don't think it's like too exploitive to the idea that he is this, you know, that he is on some spectrum level, or just having a or you know, any sort of what do you call it, atypical
Yeah.
neurodivergence or whatever.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's too exploited to that. Like, it's just, the thing is, his character isn't fleshed out too much, and like he has a certain value to the group. But that's like, there isn't a lot to him other than he's just sort of this innocent kind of guy, and then that has this other value that helps everyone out.
I mean,
So,
I love that the first like 8 lines he has are just like commercial taglines from when
Yeah.
I was a kid, you know?
He's
it's-
the one who says
Batteries not included. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Batteries not included.
Yeah, he's all about the radio and TV taglines for brands and stuff, like, which is
Yeah.
it's a cute little like thing. But like, you almost don't understand why anyone cares that he's there unless he, you know, like, that's the thing.
Yeah.
There's this disconnect. Like he doesn't have like they know him, like Frank and Faye know him.
Yeah.
I don't think the other people do. I don't think Marissa or what's his face? Mason know him. And so they all meet each other. And but like, so yeah, if he had like a fun, like warm relationship with them in the restaurant, like every day, like, you know, it'd be like a nice little, he's just part of their little family. Like, so, you know, I don't know. I think that's like seeing it from a modern perspective of like, there's an easier way to like really get behind all these characters that have nothing to do with each other. Like, you kind of have to make them have something to do with each other.
Yeah.
Like why specifically are they all holding out? Like,
Right. There's no
Like, right.
answer for some of them.
some of
that's
them is just like stubbornness, or just like, you know, whatever. But or they don't have any. So they're if they were a little more cohesive as a unit, you know, I think it'd be a lot more enjoyable and easier to root for all of them.
But I think we know why each of them are not going, right? Like, I mean,
in
like
very loose terms.
Frank and Faye, obviously they have the history.
Yeah.
I think
They're
Mason,
the most clear, and Mason, right?
Mason thinks that it's a historical building and
Yeah.
wants to try and preserve it and save it. I think Marisa is there because she's pregnant and is kind of waiting for her musician baby daddy to be like, let's get out of here, you know, and that's not happening. And then I think with Harry, it's just, yeah, again, like I don't think he knows, like I kind of what we were talking about. He's kind of a, a more simple character that just doesn't have a lot of.
He has nowhere else to go, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I don't know. Like, I felt like I kind of understood why each of them was there.
I'm not saying it's incomplete. I'm just saying it's like they're all these little. It's part of that. It's the symptom of like they all have the separate stories going.
Sure.
Without it like really hitting home.
Yeah, there's definitely a lack of connection, which I think is exactly right. Like there's like this weird lack of connection for people who seem to be united in this desire to stay for whatever reason. Yeah. But again, like it seems like they're in some cases just meeting for the first time.
Right.
Yeah.
It seems like, well, this has been going on a long time, obviously, since every other single building in this area is destroyed and not standing. You're the only one still there. Like this can't be the first weekend. You guys are like, oh, who are you?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You live here? We're the only 4 tenants left.
Like, yeah. Like
in the whole building on this street where no one is. So
yeah.
That being said, though, like I really do like a lot of these actors. I may be kind of dogging the performance in this movie, but I love Frank McRae. I mean, Frank McRae in Red Dawn getting killed right in the opening of that is like one of my first kind of like shocking movie memories. And he was in so many movies throughout the 80s and early 90s. And, from being the stereotypical police captain in 48 Hours to, The Living Daylights and Rocky, the first, I think Rocky 2 he's in, Used Cars. He's kind of all over, but love Frank McRae. Really love Elizabeth Pena, who had a really solid career. And I think she had just done La Bamba, right? Just before this?
Right around the same time.
Yeah.
That sounds right.
Yep. La Bamba, by the way, guys, let's put it on the list.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah.
I remember seeing that at the theater.
Oh. And then John Pankow, who plays a representative from the developing company that's trying to.
Yeah,
I love John Pankow. He's in one of my favorite movies, To Live and Die in L.A., which is another one we'll be coming around to. But so good in that, and then. I mean, I think he was on. Was he on Mad About You? I know he was on
Mad About. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, he was on Mad About You. He was in Secret of My Success. He was in a. Yeah. He's been in a.
Oh yeah, that's right. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but great actor there, and
This movie is tragic. Like I was going through, like a lot of the cast has passed away, right? And some of them, like at a pretty young age, like the Michael Carmine who plays Carlos, died just only a couple years after this movie. He was only 30 years old, but he and Elizabeth Pena, who also passed away, dude, they passed away like on the same day, 25 years apart. Like it's like October 14th. It's like crazy, man.
I think the only actors left are John Pankow and Dennis Boutsikaris.
I think so. Like everybody else is maybe John DeSanti, but
he might still,
yeah, but for the most part, any of the main cast, like honestly, main cast wise, like really only the guy who played Mason is really around.
Who I like him also. I mean, he was not in that many big name projects, but when I saw this, I was saying I saw this in my after school daycare.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know what they're called. The like counselor who was there, like the guy who ran the thing. His name was Neil. He looked exactly like Dennis Boutsikaris. So,
really,
I was like, "Whoa, you're in this movie." What happened?
I think he looks a little bit like Michael Douglas, but
oh yeah, he's definitely got a Douglas vibe.
Yeah, he was in Crocodile Dundee too, which another secret quiet.
And like, does he kind of sound like Treat Williams?
A little bit, yeah.
He could be.
They could be brothers, and
he's the combination of Treat Williams and Michael Douglas.
Yeah, I think that's
beautiful head of hair,
and that solid colored beard he had on that.
Solid beard.
But then the Fix-Its show up to help kind of lift everybody's spirits, right? Where do they? There's no explanation where the Fix-Its come from, right?
Outer space.
Correct, but why?
Because that building needed fixing.
They needed power. One of them needed power, and so then they decided to fix it. Oh, wow, you broke them.
I mean, it's
had
as
to walk
simple
away
as
for a
that.
second.
The building needed fixing. No, Frank Riley,
He prayed. He prayed.
He did.
He prayed.
He asked for help.
That's all you got to do, and the Fix-Its will come.
Well, I mean, come on. How many movies have we seen where like that's all
Magic shit.
Yeah, but you know what? Like,
drive you need.
Let's compare it to E.T. E.T. had a complete like logical explanation. Like, there's a reason E.T.'s there.
We've already established that this is 75% of a movie. That's part of the 25%.
You need an explanation why the Fix-Its are there.
It bothered me this time. Like, they just show up. They're just
Sounds
there.
like somebody was grumpy.
It's convenient and it's a coincidence, but who cares? I don't know. Who cares? They're cute.
I'm going to get my anti-Fix-It merchandise going, which you can buy at ReconCinimation.com.
Yeah. All right, let's do it.
It's going to be pictures of the Fix-Its with a big like circle with a cross through it, like down with the Fix-Its.
Fix-It's not allowed.
Don't include the Fix-It's not included.
Fix-It's not included. Perfect. We got it.
I don't think you need an order. Like what do you need? Like a throwaway line where like they figure out like, oh, they're just passing through our galaxy. And then you'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, they're just passing through.
Yeah, so they just need to say it.
And then you'd be like, great, love it.
Perfect. Check.
Maybe they were dropping off their predator on the other side of the planet.
That very well could be. Yeah,
like their version of the predator.
Yeah,
I like that take.
That goes hunting, And there's this other story that we never see.
But
we do. It's Predator 2.
We're connecting batteries not included to a lot of other things, and it's making it pretty great.
They're logical connections. I mean, if you really think about it.
What part of New York are they in? They don't really say.
New York.
It's like Queens, right?
Or the New York part.
Yeah, they're in the part.
They're in the part that's Manhattan?
Rebel.
They're in the New York part.
Because we get to see Times Square in this movie. Like it's a whole different world when they go to Times Square. Like toward the end of the movie, it's like, oh, now they're filming an 80s.
Yeah, it feels really different when they are there,
and they're there immediately, right? Like
they just walk there. Like they're just like
they're looking for the Fix-It kids.
They're just on the other side of the bridge.
After the Fix-It kids are born, they get scared, right, and they fly off and disappear into this city. Mm-hmm. How it's like finding a lost dog in the city. Like how? Oh, the whistle, right?
No. Well, no, because he figured out how to communicate with them.
Yeah,
that's right.
Because Harry knows.
Harry knows an explanation for that too, John.
I did. Yeah,
Harry repaired the baby. He fixed the baby.
He fixed the baby.
He fixed the baby with his TV, with his precious TV that he took apart. He knew exactly what parts to use.
He had a theory, and then it worked.
Well, he had a theory. It's already been established that Harry is also kind of a Fix-It guy, right? Because earlier
he's a human Mr. Fix-It.
Yeah.
Earlier in the movie, like he's sitting there trying to put the little tiles back together. Like he's a tinkerer. He's a Fix-It.
Perfect. This is making the perfect movie.
I don't understand why you hate this movie so much, John. All of a sudden you need an explanation.
What are they doing there?
Oh my God. What's their motivation?
I also felt like this movie was maybe 15 minutes too long.
Yeah.
I feel like
an hour and 40.
The end is a little bit drawn out. Like just the timing of it all. Like, they're in the city, they're trying to find the Fix-Its, and then the Faye is left behind and at the apartment building, and then the arsonist is there because now they're just gonna burn the building down and force it. And then Carlos's turn from villain to hero, and he rescues Faye, and
there is like every one of those scenes is like just like 45 seconds too long to keep stream like that does like that's the power of editing, right? Like you can really tighten this up and still get across what you need. So it's almost like do they did they have the right coverage that they needed? They can't reshoot it. Okay, this is what they're going to go with. They're going to make it longer.
I
But
mean,
yeah,
and how
it's-
long did that arsonist have to like set up the friggin'
He's doing great work
booby
down
trap?
there.
Like
My-
that,
my favorite-
that guy's down there for a month and a half.
My,
Putting
Stapling
gasoline
balloons filled
like-
with fuel.
like what
my
the hell?
favorite
Dude.
part is like Carlos confronts him and they're fighting like out in the front of the building where he's yelling about the arsonist is yelling, it's
the
gonna
only-
blow. Like,
But it's the only building in
Yeah.
New York, so it's like
that's in Old York.
You've got
Old York,
2
yeah.
minutes. What I am intrigued from a production standpoint is like, where did they film like this exterior, all these exteriors? Like, where did they? Was it part of? Because it's clearly like you see surrounding areas. It is like old
well, they
buildings
built
and stuff.
they built the building, right?
Yeah,
So like
that's
the
on
actual
stage. Yeah.
well,
no,
they
no,
built
but I'm
it
saying
out.
the exterior.
Oh, correct. Yeah, no, they
Yeah,
built the facade. It's somewhere on the Lower East Side.
Oh, wow.
They
Yeah.
found like
Yeah.
a vacant.
Lot,
basically
and then
a
they filled
lot.
it with rubble and a bunch of crap, and then
Yeah.
they built like a 3-sided facade
Oh, okay.
building that they used as a set. And it's kind of funny because like
It looks
people
good.
around the neighborhood, like during filming, were trying to like they did so good with it that people were like coming in and trying to eat at the cafe, like
Right.
just like neighbors and stuff
Yeah.
like around the area. Like the city came out and was like the plumbing like whoever the plumbing superintendent was like came out and was like, why is there not a permit for this building? And
Ah,
Yeah.
like the city like sewage and
it's like
refuge.
not a real building.
Yeah, they like came to like start taking trash away and stuff like in this area. They started like they literally were picking up set garbage, like set pieces that were intentionally set dressed out there, like that they thought
Oh,
were
that's fun.
trash bundles. So yeah,
It's supposedly was on 8th Street between Avenue C and D, I think.
yeah.
What's there
But that's
now?
it's all it's other buildings are
Skyscrapers.
there, so it's you can't even tell that it was there.
Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, interesting.
I
So-
just thought I thought the design of the building was really good, and I thought
Sure.
they did a great job with that, like to make it seem like, because yeah, that empty lot turned deconstructed buildings was like looked like a fucking war zone. Like you could do
Yeah.
Saving Private Ryan on that
yeah,
block.
like just bricks, just piles of bricks
and wood
rubble.
everywhere.
Yeah,
Yeah, like I read something that Spielberg wanted the building to have sort of a kind of a rear window kind of feel to it,
Mhm.
like, and so yeah, I think I agree that I think they did a pretty, considering it's all movie magic, like
Yeah.
it's pretty
Well,
well done.
And you got to give props to toward the end where they burn it down. I mean, that fire sequence, like that looked gorgeous. Like that's that 80s like we're gonna destroy this. And
Yeah,
I mean,
practical, like
they
we're not.
backdrafted it.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
they
then the part of the facade coming down and just like, whew, nice
Yeah.
job, everybody. Like that's where
Yeah,
before you had computers to do shit, like that's where all the money went. Was like
yeah.
machines.
We
blow
got
it
the
up.
shot.
Yep.
Yeah. And like,
Well-
with the stunt guy that played like for Carlos, who was in the building trying to rescue Faye, like that was a lot of fire in those fucking like narrow turns and all that shit. And he's hiding his face because it's not him. But it's just like there's some fire. Like
Yeah.
you can tell he's covered in like the
Yeah.
gel. But like that's fucked up. Like I don't know, you don't do that these days.
Yeah.
No.
you know?
Now,
Well, actually, they do sometimes, and when they do, you notice it because
Yeah.
it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Safety precautions are a little different these days.
I'll say.
But good thing there was some fix-its around for after the building burned down. We still need to get our happy Steven Spielberg ending.
Yeah,
The-
not just our family of fix-its, but like every fix-it in the galaxy.
They're all here. All the fix-its are here now. So
That's
they all
cute.
show up and we
I
get we get our happy ending, right, with the building now rebuilt, and not just rebuilt, but pristine to what its original quality was.
So now it can be saved by the historical building registrar, whoever that lady was.
Yeah.
I would have just loved you saw the interior of the apartments and they look super 80s with like neon and Liechtenstein paint, like posters, or
A lot of
like,
lacquer and
yeah, like there's like hot tubs and like like whoa, geez, the fix it's really
It should
they-
be like that should be the
accessorized.
apartment complex where like all the 80s sitcoms happened, like Perfect Strangers. Like, oh, they lived
yeah,
there.
yeah,
that's
yeah,
where they
yeah.
lived. It's the same
The
place.
Facts of Life girls and the
Yeah.
Perfect Strangers, they all live
And then Seinfeld moved in and forget about it. Yeah, so we get our happy ending, and there we go. Should we is it time? Should we talk a little?
Well, hold on.
Whoa,
You missed
hang
one key
Oh, do tell
amazing
story.
cameo
Mario
at the
Lopez.
end of this movie. Luis
Shows up.
Guzman.
Was Luis Guzman in the end?
Very
Hell
young
yeah, he
Luis
was.
Guzman. Yep.
Very young, sitting in the back behind Faye and Frank as they stand outside the building and
Huh.
talk about how wonderful it is that it's rebuilt.
Is he just He's just standing behind them.
Yeah, he's just standing in the background with
Oh,
some other guys.
Luis Guzman.
Yep.
I didn't
Yeah.
know that. That's
There
very
he
cool.
is.
Big fan. We'll call that up. Well, look, this was a movie. You know what? Like, as I'm on the IMDb page for it, it's like movies like this, and I wouldn't have thought like, but it's the perfect same sort of thing. Short Circuit.
Mhm.
Like,
Right.
there's a rom-com element, but it is this weird like family-friendly movie that have nothing to do with kids, but kids like Short Circuit.
Yeah.
Like, I
Yeah.
grew up liking Short Circuit. Like, and this is another one of those. This is a part of the 80s of like things that aren't necessarily made for kids as the target audience, but is also accessible to kids.
Right.
Like Batteries Not Included, probably less accessible, but still along that same vein, So it's before kids became important like consumers of entertainment and all of that. Like the four quadrant was important in a certain degree.
Mhm.
Well,
But-
it was right at the precipice of that, right? Like a big driving factor, again, kind of going back to the consumer products thing earlier, is that,
Yeah.
at this time in the 80s is when the toy market for kids was exploding. And like,
Oh yeah.
and, like there were all these kind of mechanical digital toys, that required batteries. And so like, that's,
Right, yeah.
all kind of feeding into that. And that's why, like this is part of that push, or trying to have momentum because of that push. So yeah, I mean, similar to Short Circuit, with the robot and all that stuff, just something that could be a toy that a kid could latch onto and get their parents to spend their money to buy, and you could destroy in the backyard.
Did Johnny Five have a action figure, and
No,
did
I
the
don't
Fix-Its
think
have
so.
action figures? They didn't.
No, he
it
should
would
have.
now. It would have it now, but didn't then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's the thing. It's just a movie to get as many eyeballs without offending everybody. They don't make those anymore, right? Like they haven't done that in
Right.
20 years. Like when everything got marketed to death and focus group to death.
Well, should we have we arrived? Should we talk a little box office glory?
Sure, yeah. Absolutely.
All right. Batteries Not Included comes out December 18th, 1987. Believe it or not, it had a $25 million budget,
Go what?
which is that's a lot of money.
That's
1980s
that's
money for a movie
100
like
million
this.
this year. That's
Yeah.
100 million today.
I mean,
probably.
it's all that Cronin cash.
They were very
Hume-
expensive.
Yeah.
Hume-
Hume
Hume's a
wants Hume
Hume's a-
wanted Hume wanted 20 million, and Jessica gets one, and the rest is for the movie. So
He's like, I don't get out of bed for less than $1 million a day.
so it has a $3.3 million opening weekend. It's opens up against Overboard.
Hey,
Oh yes, we're going to talk about that. And Leonard Part 6. Oh no, we're not going to talk about that.
How are you not going to talk about Leonard Part 6?
is that Bill Cosby or?
That is
That's
Bill
how you're
Cosby.
not going to talk about
Exactly.
Leonard Part 6.
Okay.
And it
What was that movie?
Oh, it was a confused movie, but I'm not gonna lie, I probably have seen that movie a dozen times.
Is he a superhero?
He's a kind of, I don't know if you call him a superhero or like some kind of.
Oh, it's a spy parody. Film.
He's a misplaced super spy.
I'm trying to think. Oh, I'm thinking of
Ghost Dad.
I'm thinking
Pluto Nash.
I was thinking of Robert Townsend as
Meteor Man.
Meteor Man.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's like that's what I thought you were like. Winter Part 6. That's, and then as I'm saying it, it's like, no wait, that's Bill Cosby. What am I thinking of? Anyway.
So Batteries Not Included opens up against those two movies. It debuts at number 4, right between Throw Mama from the Train and Wall Street.
Ooh.
Number 1 at the box office that week was Raw with Eddie Murphy.
Oh shit.
Yeah. It ends up with a $32.9 million domestic run, so it makes a little money.
That must have run for 6 months.
Raw?
It was probably Batteries Not Included.
Yeah, didn't
Like to open at 3 million and to make that. Like, I mean, and movies had more longevity back then. Anyway,
yes,
so.
yeah, they didn't get pulled quite as quickly. I mean, and again, there was no streaming. The home video market was really 87, 88 was really just starting to really rise.
Yeah.
So movies had a longer theatrical run. It was the number 45 movie of 1987, right between Nuts and Baby Boom.
I saw Baby Boom in the theater.
Did you? I haven't seen either of those
I don't know
movies.
why. I think I was dragged there. I don't remember.
I
liked
just rewatched
it,
Baby
I guess.
Boom, and I liked it. I enjoyed it.
I Diane Keaton, Harold Ramis' joint.
Yeah, I don't like seeing Harold Ramis as kind of a jerk, but you know.
Well, you know, sometimes you gotta play the jerk.
So, yeah, so that's the box office for Batteries Not Included. You know, not a massive winner for Spielberg, but I think it had some legs on video. Obviously, that was where I saw it, and but you know, I will say, I did like seeing the Hume Cronin Jessica Tandy team. I remember when this came out, I used to watch in the mornings. I'd watch Good Morning America with my dad, you know, especially in the 80s. And I remember the huge deal being made about them doing another movie together. And they had this legendary career as a couple, and both individually having, you know, been in some great films over the course of 40 years. And Cocoon being probably their best together, and they would still do another, I think, 1 or 2 projects after this one, but
like Cocoon 2,
Cocoon 2, and then there's another one that they did in '94 that released right after Jessica Tandy passed away.
X versus Sever.
Yep, yeah,
they were both in X versus
Banderas, Cronin, Tandy,
and Lou
together again. Yeah, but yeah, I don't know if I really want to see the two of them together, I'm probably gonna watch Cocoon and not this.
Good luck finding it.
What other movies were they in that I should see? Because I didn't know they were a Power Hollywood.
I wouldn't say they were a Power, you know, team on camera, but they you know, were a famous couple who lasted their whole.
Gotcha.
You know, they're basically their whole careers together.
Oh, okay. They weren't in a lot of like movies in their
I think they did a total
together.
of 4.
Oh,
no,
okay.
It had to be more because Cocoon 2, this, and her final film. But so I think maybe 1 or 2 more.
What was her final film? Was Nobody's Fool, but I don't
know. There's, hold on, I'm gonna find it here.
I'm gonna look up Hume Cronin.
Oh, it's called Camilla. Oh yeah, right. Nobody's Fool did release after. Both of those released after her death, but Camilla was the last one that she did with Hume Cronin.
Got it.
And if you want to hear more about Nobody's Fool, you can check it out in our archives at ReconCinemation.com.
We did that?
Oh, we did it. David doesn't even remember the movies we did.
Wait, Nobody's Fool. Which one's that?
Paul Newman.
Paul Newman.
Oh, Paul Newman. Yeah, he's great in that one. I do remember.
We've done so many. There's so many movies.
We're like 150 episodes, and I don't know.
Congrats.
Good for us.
But so, what do you guys think for a modern audience? Is a modern audience gonna want to watch this movie, and what do you think they're gonna think if they do?
I think a new audience would probably have a tough time with it in a little bit, but I don't think they'd find anything offensive about it. More or less. It's fine. It's perfectly 80s, schmaltzy, but not as well executed as a lot of that 80s schmaltz could be. Like your short circuits. Like short circuits, a little schmaltzy, a little more fun.
Yeah, you got a fair amount of racism in Short Circuit now.
Well, yeah, I mean,
that's on the somewhat unwatchable list as far as that stuff goes.
We can't watch that. Huh? We can't watch that. Or two. 2 was good.
I love 2.
2 was great.
Yeah.
It was all about like branding. It was all about like commercialism and branding.
Yeah.
That was great. Look, he didn't know. No,
I mean it's a product of its time. Like so many of what we're talking about and looking at is what was okay then is not okay now. We can't change it.
This is the Fisher Stevens
aspect. Yes.
I think Aziz Ansari talked about like either not even realizing Fisher Stevens wasn't Asian.
Yeah. I don't think I knew.
I didn't.
And then figuring it out. I'm like, none of us do. It's like,
no.
That
guy from Short Circuit? Oh, he's not Indian?
Yeah. Like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
But then the Fisher Stevens would show up from other stuff. And it's like, huh.
Yeah.
He's not. Oh, he doesn't have that accent. Oh, okay.
I think he's become a big director, too. And yeah. But
I think, I don't think anyone's trying to like, cancel Fisher Stevens for that.
No, I'm not going to stop watching Short Circuit. Yeah. I mean, I haven't watched it in years, but I'm not going to say that I'm never going to watch it again.
I'm not going to refuse a Short Circuit.
Yeah,
I'm not looking for it.
Let's watch Short Circuit. I'm be like, okay.
I mean, if that's the top movie you want to watch right now, we can watch Short Circuit.
Yeah.
but yeah, I haven't seen it in 30 years.
No, exactly.
Even if it is a Guten classic,
it is. It's a Guten classic. Yep. We have many Guten classics to go ahead of ours, in our lineup here. But
hardly any of them would survive the standards of today's
true.
I don't think there's a Guten classic we could watch that wouldn't be like that shouldn't be protested against.
Well, 3 Men and a Baby. We did 3 Men and a Baby.
Other than that
might be the closest one to being benign.
Yeah.
3 Men and a Baby, number 1 movie of 1987, by the way.
Yeah. 287 million something. Something crazy.
44 spots ahead of Batteries Not Included. So I don't know. Like
I don't understand the discrepancy.
If I'm recommending 80s, 80s family movies, like this is not going to be on the top of the list.
No.
I think there's a lot of others ahead of it, but it just as a we hit on all the reasons. Like as a whole film, it just doesn't connect the way I think they wanted it to, and maybe it did then, but it's just not hitting it anymore. So
yeah.
Well,
but I'm glad you know what? It was time to do it. It's something that everyone from the 80s knows existed. No one talks about it, and now we understand why.
Why
it's okay, and it's a nice little thing for seeing Hume and Jessica together.
Yeah. And if you're fans of them, and
all the actors in it are good. Like everyone
definitely
does a really good job.
Worth watching. If you're a Frank McRae head, then definitely definitely get in there. But
we'll say Batteries Not Included has been reconsinemized.
Yes,
quite successfully.
Yeah, let's hopefully find Cocoon.
Yeah, we're gonna continue our search.
We got to circle back on Cocoon,
guys. Let's go get some lunch. I'm not ordering the pea soup. Okay.
I know one thing that could have boosted Batteries Not Included up quite a bit. And that's if they had cast Kurt Russell.
Kurt Russell.
Instead of Mason, whoever played Mason.
Well,
Yeah.
you know, Dennis, Dennis
but-
did a great job, but yeah, I did see a little bit of Kurt Russell in that.
Yeah, especially with the
tortured
hair.
artist role.
Come on.
Hair. Yeah,
Great
you
art,
can't
great
deny that
hair.
Kurt would have dominated, though. So, and I say that because our very next episode is we're circling around Mr. Russell's birthday, and we've got a big Kurt Russell
boy.
episode coming up. So, not going to say what it is. I'll let your imaginations run wild. We may have a special guest for it. We're still trying to work out all the contracts and everything, but we'll see if we can get somebody back in the studio. But yeah, stay tuned for that. Well, Brent, you're right. We reconcinemaized Batteries Not Included, and we went family, and maybe we don't do that again.
Come on. There's plenty of brilliant family movies.
You're right.
The funny thing about all this is like all the crazy shit you have seen by 1987 in your personal life. I'm like, why is this standing out to you? Like, with all you've seen a lot of murders and crazy movies and, right?
Brent, you're a horror aficionado by
And I'm like,
87.
but Batteries Not Included. It's also hitting that like
I
hitting
love
something.
Listen, man, I was ready to revisit Batteries Not Included only after we struggled to find other content to view. But I don't regret it.
No, we're here. I'm happy we covered it.
This is good stuff.
We had a good time.
For me, it conjures up a lot of memories of that after school, daycare that I actually, I had a lot of really good times there. So this movie made me, brought me right back to that. So for that, I was very thankful. I hadn't thought about that stuff in quite a long time.
Sounds like somebody took the time to explain to you why you were at daycare, and that's all you needed.
Yeah. Oh, all right. Well, that's going to wrap us up for this episode. Thanks for tuning in. Stay tuned for our next episode. It's going to be a good one. And check us out on social media. We're at Reconcinimation Podcast on Instagram and Twitter. And check out our archives at reconcinimation.com. Don't forget to, give us a 5-star rating and a review. It helps all the episodes get boosted. And while we're at it, quick thank you and shout out to our pals. E.K. Wimmer, thank you for the theme music, and check out his podcast, Laser Graves. Curtis Moore, who, by the way, just got is getting married very soon. So congrats on the upcoming nuptials.
Oh, that's not anyone's business, but congratulations, Curtis. Just kidding. Sorry.
We just like to share good news sometimes. So,
and we need that in today's age.
Yeah, we need as much good news as we can get, but. Yeah, or some fix-its are going to have to come around and make some good news.
I'm ready.
Yeah.
Can you explain why they've come? Sorry.
I don't know why they're here. I don't want to know.
They're waiting right outside the booth.
I don't know why I'm giving you such a hard time.
Oh, God. All right. Well, stay tuned, and we will see you guys next time on Reconcinimation.
Take care.
Bye now.
The fix-its are here to fix my life. And that's
yeah, right.
Your front porch. Fix your front porch.
Get the porch, get the floor done.
Yeah, the front porch, the
Fix
front
that
yard,
chimney,
the backyard,
the chimney thing.
chimney thing. Yeah, all of it.